Session is resumed.
Senator Manny Pacquiao, sir, Mr. President.
Senator Pacquiao is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise on a matter of personal and collective privilege. I fully support the declaration of martial law in Mindanao by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. As Mindanaoan, Mr. President, I believe that this is timely and necessary. The violence perpetrated by the Moro extremists in Marawi City has to be stopped. Martial law is the right move to empower the military and the police to restore stability and order in the area. Now is not the time for us to be divided as a nation. Let us understand that the President makes this tough decision with the welfare of the people in mind. I am appealing to the civilian populace not only in Marawi City but in the entire country to stay calm and vigilant. Let us support our government. Let us be responsible by not spreading unverified reports. The President is constitutionally bound to provide explanation within 48 hours to justify his decision. Our current Constitution provides adequate safeguards against possible abuses, which are not available in our previous Constitution. There is nothing to fear about martial law. It is for the good for our land and the safety of our people. To our brothers and sisters in Marawi City, rest assured that you are in our thoughts and prayers. We are praying for your safety during these trying times. We are also praying for our brave soldiers and law enforcers who risk their lives in the field just to make our country a safe place to live in. Mr. President, thank you and stay strong, Marawi. God bless us all.
Thank you, Senator Pacquiao. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we refer the three privileged speeches to the Committee on Defense.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are in receipt, Mr. President, of the copy of the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 1353 and House Bill 5159. With the permission of the body, may we recognize the chairman of the Senate panel, Senator J.V. Ejercito, to give us the highlights of the BICAM report.
Senator Ejercito is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Masunod niyo.
Your Senate panel of the Bicameral Conference on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 1353 and House Bill number 5159 is pleased to report that we have come up with the reconciled version in which we are submitting today for ratification by the body. Mr. President, for the information of my colleagues, may just cite some of the salient points of the reconciled bill. Number one, the definition of emergency in BP 702 as amended was further amended to include the case of a pregnant woman in active labor. Emergency is now defined as a condition or state of a patient wherein, based on the objective findings of a prudent medical officer on duty for the day, there is immediate danger and where delay in initial support and treatment may cause loss of life or cause permanent disability to the patient. Or in the case of a pregnant woman, permanent injury or loss of her unborn child or would result in a non-institutional delivery. Thus, it will be unlawful for hospitals or medical clinics to refuse pregnant women who are about to give birth just because they do not have money to give to the hospital as deposit, which hospitals often require as a prerequisite for administering basic emergency care. We hope that with this provision, we will no longer read or hear of a case of a woman giving birth in a taxi because she was turned away by a hospital. Number two, to deter hospitals or medical clinics from demanding deposits from patients in emergency cases, the penalties were increased. Aside from imprisonment, any employee, medical practitioner, or official of the hospital who violates the provisions of this act will pay an increased fine of 100,000 up to 300,000 pesos. Moreover, if the violation was committed pursuant to an existing hospital policy, aside from imprisonment, the director or officer of the health facility will pay an increased fine of 500,000 pesos up to 1 million pesos. And upon the third violation, the license of the hospital shall be revoked by the Department of Health. Number 3, lest it be misconstrued that this measure is merely punitive, the reconciled bill provides for PhilHealth reimbursement to hospitals for the expenses incurred in administering basic emergency care to indigent or poor patients. Furthermore, the hospital can declare the other costs of basic emergency care given to indigent patients that are not reimbursed by PhilHealth as tax deductible. Finally, the reconciled bill provides a mechanism for mediation and resolution of complaints of patients against hospitals who demand deposit for emergency or serious cases. A health facilities oversight board shall be established under the Department of Health to be composed of a DOH representative, a representative of the Philippine Medical Association, a representative from private health institutions, and 3 representatives from the organizations advocating for patients' rights and public health, one whom should be a licensed physician. The Oversight Board shall investigate the claim of the patient and after adjudication, impose administrative sanctions such as the revocation of license and shall facilitate the filing of criminal case in the proper courts. That will be all, Mr. President. May I then move that we ratify the conference committee report on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 1353 and House Bill number 5159 as submitted, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Ejercito.
We have no objection. The motion was propounded by the sponsor, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are also in receipt of the copy of the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 1277 and House Bill 5225. This is the measure on an act establishing free internet access program in public places in the country and appropriating funds therefore. So with the permission of the Chamber, I move to recognize the Chair of the Senate panel, Senator Bam Aquino, to give us the highlights of the BICAM report.
Senator Aquino is recognized.
Mr. President, for the information of the body, the House has approved and ratified the Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 1277 entitled An Act Establishing the Free Internet Access Program in Public Spaces in the Country and Appropriating Funds Therefor, and House Bill number 5225 entitled An Act Mandating the Provision of Free Wi-Fi Access in Public Areas. Mr. President, I have the honor to submit a copy of the Conference Committee report with a joint explanation on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 1277 entitled An Act Establishing the Free Internet Access Program in Public Spaces in the Country and Appropriating Funds Therefor, and House Bill number 5225 entitled An Act Mandating the Provision of Free Wi-Fi Internet Access in Public Areas, as my sponsorship speech and consider it read in toto into the records, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Aquino. Majority Leader?
We have no objection, Mr. President, that the be submitted
Into the records, Mr.
into
President.
the records as deemed read.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the
Yes,
bicameral conference?
not yet,
committee?
Mr. President. I move first that we act on the.
Is there any objection?
Motion, Senator
There being
Aquino.
none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I move to we adopt and ratify the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 1277 and House Bill 5225, and that the text of the joint explanations be inserted.
Is there any objection to the motion? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations, Senator Aquino, Majority Leader, and to all our colleagues, Senator Ejercito. Senator Aquino is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President, if I may, just a quick manifestation of thanks to to all of our colleagues for passing the Free Internet Access in Public Places Act. I thought it best, Mr. President, to give a short manifestation because we're in need of good news today. Isang pirma na lang po at magiging batas na po ito. And this measure will empower Filipinos with internet access, which is also access to opportunities, access to education, information, access to livelihood, to jobs, and to business. Marami po ang nagtrabaho na maipasa ang batas na ito, and I would like just a few seconds to congratulate all of them and thank them for their contributions. Here in the Senate, of course, the Senate President Pro Tempore, Senator Recto, has been pushing for this for years, dare I say decades, years, Mr. President. Co-authors are Senators Pangilinan and Senators Pacquiao, as well as this representation. My co-sponsors, Mr. President, are Senators Recto and Poe. I'd also like to thank interpolators, Senators De Lima, Recto, Villanueva, and Zubiri, who helped make this bill into a better one. Finally, Mr. President, BICAM members, Senators Binay, Ejercito, Recto, and Villanueva, all supported this representation in the Senate panel, and thus, I think, Mr. President, we have an even better version from where we originally started. It's truly an honor sponsoring this measure, Mr. President, and we hope that this can be a step towards improving internet services in the Philippines, which of course has become a pain point for many of our countrymen. Let's push for the swift and successful implementation of the Free Internet Access in Public Places Act, and of course work on parallel efforts like the National Broadband Plan and the entry of more players and internet providers into the country. Let's all work together, Mr. President, to achieve our goal of faster, cheaper, more reliable internet services for every Filipino. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Aquino, for your stewardship and leadership in passing this measure.
Senator Pangilinan wishes to have the floor, Mr.
Senator
President.
Kiko Pangilinan is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, if I understand it correctly, as far as our rules and tradition is concerned, the senator who files the bill that is of the lowest number, the first bill on a subject matter, is considered